sir. My mom
Yeah.
took us to church,
Yeah.
and we kind of had that option to stay home, work with Dad on Sundays, or go with my mom to church. I knew of God, you know, I didn't know God. I spent many years thinking God was responsible for everything. You know, my dad was a hard man, um, alcoholic. Besides the fact that he was dying of cancer, he had a lot of anger issues and pretty dysfunctional household, you know, growing up. Mentioned my carpentry skills. It really started with him breaking stuff and tearing stuff up. And Saturday mornings, he would buckshot get up, and we'd go to the lumber yard and buy things and come home and fix them and
Fix them.
stuff. So, but no, I didn't. I didn't. I guess I had a sense all the time because even as kids, you know, we did a lot of bad things and stuff like that. And I would tell my friends, you know, we're going to pay for this. You know, this is not, you know, the Lord's going to get us. And they do it all. Oh, go easy, preacher. And they, a lot of them call me preacher, and because I was always preaching to them about, you know, go along with it, but you know,
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't right. But I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I
Yeah.
wasn't saved.
Thanks, folks, for joining us today for another opportunity to just talk some about there is more. There is more to life than what things can look like on the surface and on the outside. And we appreciate you joining us. And I'm really looking forward to having this time with a dear friend and brother in Christ, Scott Bales. And Scott, let me shake your hand, buddy. Bless you.
Bless you. Yes, sir.
Glad to have you. Well, thank you for making a time this afternoon. And Scott has one of the most interesting life stories that I really have ever heard. It hadn't all been easy. It didn't all necessarily start out in the easiest way, but the Lord over the years has just really done some amazing things in your life and in your sweet wife Linda's lives together.
Yeah.
Tell me, let's kind of jump in where this all started. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Well, both my parents are from Beckley, West Virginia, or from West Virginia. They had moved he went to the service and ended up in Cleveland, Ohio. My mom moved in with a sister in Cleveland. They had met prior to that, but the plan was when he got out of service, they would connect. And
Now, was Vietnam going on then, or was there
Korean War?
Korean War.
He
Okay.
was an honor guard for the Panama Canal.
Wow.
Is
Okay.
what he served as.
Yeah.
And, so we were in Ohio, and he got transferred with his work to Beckley, West Virginia, after having my older siblings, 3 brothers and a sister. So I was actually born in Beckley, West Virginia, but we were raised in Ohio, a suburb about 40 miles south of Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland. Yeah.
A real rural area.
So was it, you grew up outside of Cleveland? It was a smaller community, or was it in?
Yes, it was actually 25 miles square. They called it a township. It was not even big enough to be considered a town. Really, there wasn't much out there but grain farmers, some housing, but a lot of soybeans, corn. My dad leased 38 acres, and we had a small farm, horses.
Did you?
Some cows and chickens and pigs, everything.
Yeah. How old were you during that time?
Oh, all the way up until I was, I guess he had animals starting to, I had a little pony first, and then grew into a horse. And
so you were there through high school, or
yes.
Yeah.
My dad passed away when I was 14. He had lymphoma, and they gave him like 5 years to live at the time. So it was after he passed, and probably I was 17 or so. My mom decided she needed to get rid of the place and she wanted to move in a smaller condominium and downsize. It was too much to keep up. The rest of the family was older and really not around to do much, and it was a lot for us to keep the
So
place
you were
up.
the baby?
I am.
You were the baby.
The boy.
Yeah,
What
baby
they
boy.
called me, the boy.
Yeah. So it was your mom, you and your mom for those years, for
And the
that time.
sister was still
Okay.
there. Some.
Yeah.
The older ones have pretty much moved out and moved on. But yeah, we were the last ones there at the house.
Yeah.
I still had my animals and things, which was difficult, when she announced to me that, she needed to, I needed to get rid of my animals and
Wow.
she was going to move.
Yeah.
That was a tough
They were
time.
part of your life, big time. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that was a difficult time.
Yeah. So from there, where did you finished high school there, and
I
then
was a junior in high school when she moved,
okay.
and my sister was still with my mom. It was a 2-bedroom condominium, and I just always felt like I didn't need to be there. I didn't want to be there, really. My second oldest brother, I confronted him with that and shared with him, and he had a house, and he just said, I'll ask my roommate to move, but there's going to be 2 conditions. He says, you're going to finish school and you're going to pay rent. You're not going to
Yeah.
live here for free.
Uh,
And so that was the 2 conditions that he had given me. And I moved in with him after a short time with my mom.
Yeah.
It was just a little
Yeah.
awkward
yeah.
to
Now,
be.
you have one of the ways that I have known Scott over the years and have grown to really appreciate his skill set is that he's just an amazing carpenter and skilled carpenter. And I'm not sure all the correct terms there, but there's not anything you can't do with wood, and everything related to that. When did you begin to pick up that trade, that skill?
I took a carpenter's class. When my mom moved, I still used her address, though I moved back into the township. My brother lived in the township we grew up in. But I used my mom's address and went to a home school there. And we used to compete against them in wrestling and everything. So I was in the homeroom there. I never really cared for school much. I wanted to work. I had a kind of a rough time going through. So I had actually quit once as a junior in high school and went to Florida. And I was there probably 4 or 5 months, and I realized that I'm going to be chasing this backhoe, shoveling sand out of footers and stuff for a Target store. I better go back to school. So I went back home and went back to school as a junior. And this time at that other home school, they had a vocational program, and I asked if there was any openings where I could transfer and go into the trade school. And they had an opening in carpentry. So I did 1 year of carpentry my junior year there. And then my senior year, they had diversified co-op training. And if you had a job, then you only had to go to school from 8 to 11. We sat a few hours in the diversified and talked about everybody's jobs, different things like that. Then you had a 45-minute English course and a 45-minute history course, and that was all I needed to graduate. So I actually got more credits for 3 hours of school than I'd ever gotten going through school because my job was 6 credits.
Well, you evidently took a liking to
That was the House of Hardwoods where I had a job, and my teacher was just thrilled at that. He come out to visit. The guy was a woodshop teacher who started a House of Hardwoods, it was called. He sold lumber. So that's where I first learned to to mill lumber, run planers, joiners. My job basically was take customers to the barn, pick out the lumber that they want, dimensional sizes that would work for them, and then I would take it and S4S it, plane
Yeah.
it and clean it up, cut it to
Mm.
the sizes and everything they wanted.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that was a great job there.
Mm. Okay, so how did you end up in San Antonio?
Well, I guess I've always, when my mom sold the place and I had my horse and a dog and some of my animals, I remember, a vision that I'm leaving. I'm going to get on my horse and I'm going to Texas. And I still fantasized as it being the open range and Wild West. And,
Mm.
you know, I'll just ride to Texas. I'm not getting rid of my animals that I
You're going to
wanted.
ride your horse to
I was
Texas?
going to ride as
Uh,
a 15, 16-year-old kid. Yeah,
yeah.
my thoughts were, that was one of my crazy
Mm.
notions is I'll just take off,
Yeah.
and of course that really didn't work out, but I think I've always felt like I wanted to be somewhere else, and the opportunity came with some friends came down a year or so before, and I tried to get them to let me come with them then. Yeah, but that didn't work out. They said we've already got plans, and so. But after about 6 more months, a year later, one of them called me that I grew up with, and he said, my helper just lost a helper. I have a job opening if you want to come down. And I was working with his brother, actually doing carpentry work with him, doing roofs. And it was October, and we were push brooming snow off a 2-story house in Cleveland
In October.
in October. Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
And I just said, when he called me, I told his brother that day, I said, you know what, Danny called me, and I'm going to go to Texas. And he about had a fit because
Uh,
Danny worked for him before he left.
uh,
And he said, as soon as I get you to where you know what you're doing, and I don't have to tell you everything to do, you're going to leave too.
uh,
So that's how I ended up coming down to
was
Texas.
that San Antonio? Did you?
That was San
Okay.
Antonio, yes. And
Okay.
we worked in the northeast atrium right there across from 410 Jones Maltzberger. It was a
Mm.
6-story building, and we did punch out. We did the ceiling tile and doors and hardware on lease spaces. It was
Mm.
a fairly new and empty building. So,
Mm.
and as the tenants started moving in, we would build their suites. He subbed a lot of it out, but we did a lot of the finish work there.
Mm. Mm.
And that's where I met my Linda. She,
All right. All right.
she had,
Well, and that was so when you and Linda met, that was like it's going to happen anytime somebody really feels like you have met the person that you've been waiting to meet all your life.
yes.
It changes. Your life changes, and
Mm-hmm.
for the better. That's the Lord's intent. That
Yeah.
He didn't desire for all of us to just be alone all of our lives, but that there would be someone. But you all didn't necessarily, or maybe you didn't from your story necessarily have a close walk with the Lord at that time.
No, sir. My mom
Yeah.
took us to church,
Yeah.
and we kind of had that option to stay home, work with Dad on Sundays, or go with my mom to church. I knew of God, I didn't know God. I spent many years thinking God was responsible for everything. My dad was a hard man, alcoholic. Besides the fact that he was dying of cancer, he had a lot of anger issues, and pretty dysfunctional household, growing up. Mentioned my carpentry skills. It really started with him breaking stuff and tearing stuff up. And Saturday mornings, he would buckshot get up, and we'd go to the lumber yard and buy things and come home and fix them and
Fix them.
stuff. So, but no, I didn't. I didn't. I guess I had a sense all the time because even as kids, we did a lot of bad things and stuff like that. And I would tell my friends, we're going to pay for this. This is not you know, the Lord's going to get us, and they do it all. Oh, go easy, preacher.
Mm, mm,
And they a lot of
mm.
them call me preacher, and
Ah,
because I was always preaching to them about
mm,
go along with it, but it
yeah.
I knew it wasn't right, but
Mm,
I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I
yeah.
wasn't saved.
Did some of what your dad was involved in, the alcohol, did that have an effect on you
Oh,
personally?
absolutely. We
Yeah.
all of my siblings uh, have drug and alcohol issues, and or have had, and some still do, and I did. I brought on uh, alcohol and drug abuse for
Yeah.
years and years. In
Mm,
fact, until we were here in '94, when we
mm,
started coming to church and getting saved. And even after that, it was a process. It wasn't
mm,
something that,
mm,
the Lord just took. After being saved, even it was probably another 10 years or so before I really started dealing with it. Linda and I got into some deep healing ministry, and when we started going to some of those training seminars and stuff like that, the stuff just hit home. They were talking about tools and different tools, and uh, deep rooted issues, and how to go about that. And it just clicked when I
mm.
guess the word tools,
And the tools
uh,
would be what? What's a tool that they
a
would speak
tool, the
of that you would?
definition of a tool is an instrument designed to complete a task.
Mm,
And I
mm,
guess that was the task I was after, was trying to get right. I had a lot of anger in myself, and a lot of bitterness. Um, as a kid, I used to love to fight, and I just,
mm,
we would drink, and I wasn't a happy drunk. I was always angry. Um, when I did drink, I'd get mean,
mm.
bitter, angry. Had a lot of unforgiveness, toward even family members, and just even the Lord. I have to say that, I had to repent of that, and once
Yeah.
we got to know the Lord and was saved and everything like that, He brought that to my attention. I blamed Him for a lot of things He wasn't responsible for,
Mm,
and I know now that we can give the enemy a foothold. We
right.
have open doors in our life, unforgiveness and sin,
Yeah.
and it's not God that comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and those aren't His ways. But
Mm, mm,
He came to save, heal, and deliver. And it wasn't until we even taught some of the classes and the courses on that healing ministry, and it was the happiest times in our lives, probably. That began a bonding with Linda and I. It was fun
mm,
to do together, but
mm,
it was also where we began to heal, where I
mm,
began to heal and really deal with
mm.
the root of the problem. The
Yeah.
alcohol and the drugs were a symptom.
What would
You
take
know,
you to alcohol, Scott? Because I remember when we met years ago, that was an issue that you were wanting to be free from, and so forth. And the Lord wonderfully over time, and He gave you a wife who stood with you, stayed
yes,
with you,
yes,
and prayed for you, and
yes.
and loved you. Um, what what would make you drink? What would come, because they'll talk about that it's a self-medicating deal.
Absolutely.
Drugs, I use drugs to medicate. I use alcohol to medicate. I use pleasure. It's a crazy thing, but something's not right here, and I
Right,
know it, and I feel it, and I medicate it by
right.
drugs. What would
Absolutely.
what would make you what would make you drink to the excess that we're talking about?
Well, I believe now, looking back and everything like that, I was very hurt, the loss of my father, and like I said, I believe I blamed God for a lot of things, that he wasn't responsible for, but basically just to make myself feel better. I learned early
Yeah.
on,
Mm-hmm.
it was at our house. Um, my mom was gone a lot when my father was sick. If he wasn't in the hospital, you know, he would spend a great deal of time in the hospitals and stuff for his treatments and that. And our house was crazy household. That was the place to be for, my older brothers and that. I was introduced to marijuana in the sixth grade. I walked into my bedroom and my brother was there busting up a bunch of marijuana, and I didn't even know what it was at the time. And he just said, "Here, get out of here before mom comes home." I took it to my sister. What do we do with this? And where'd you get that? And
Mm.
anyway, that began. I started
Yeah.
smoking that early on, and uh, alcohol too was another issue growing up. So I really believe, there for quite a bit of time, I was addicted to it
Yeah.
as well. And then when I would start to drink, I'd get angry even at myself
Mm.
because I knew better. I didn't, this is not what I wanted to do, but here I am again, and I would just continue to drink, and that brought on anger. And of course, Linda didn't care for it. And, we would have those confrontations. And, she grew up in a household similar to mine a little bit with drinking. And we just, it was the norm at first, I think. She thought my dad's going to love this guy because he drinks. And, uh, but the drinking, I guess, David, was to pacify wounds and
Yeah.
hurts, of my
Yeah.
past. And,
Yeah. And it doesn't, that's the thing about the self-medicating. Whatever you use, it doesn't fix the root.
oh,
It
no, sir.
addresses some kind of symptom, but you still got the root. And I think that's where there is more with you and Linda, Scott, is the heart of that is that the difference came, the freedom came for you
Mm-hmm.
two, both of you, and
Yeah.
your marriage, as there you came to experience the living Lord Jesus Christ do things to set you free on the inside.
Yeah.
That there was something of His presence that you came to sense is real, and
Yes.
that the more real He is, the freer
Yeah.
we get.
Yes. Yes.
And I've loved watching that over the years, and the degrees and the steps that you all have lived and walked in over these years. That the more the Lord has become real to you, the freer you have gotten.
Yes.
That's the way it
And I
seems
see
to me.
him. I see him early on. Even the vision of riding my horse down
Yeah.
here and marrying an Indian squaw or what have you. You know, it's ironic that not ironic, but it was the Lord. I believed that
Mm.
vision even as a child, a young teen, was the Lord, giving me peace. In that moment, don't get crazy, but we'll get you there, you
Mm.
know. And when I saw Linda, I just knew that's what came to my mind and my heart. I'd see her in her reception area window. Our office was across the way, and I watched her walk out to lunch one day, and I said, "There she is." Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did what I could. I would get on the roof in the morning and watch for her to come in to work
Mm.
because we started a couple hours before they did. And
Mm.
I'd watch her leave, and then they moved her to the back of the law firm as a secretary. And I told my boss, I said, "I cannot catch this girl. They moved her now. I know she's still here because I see her come and go from work. I need to meet her." And he said, "Well, grab a couple pieces of ceiling tile and a ladder and go find her." He said,
He
"If
worked with you, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
he helped me out." He said, "If they say anything to you, the attorneys, you tell them I sent you in there. I set my ladder up behind her and watching her type away for a little bit, and she looked up, and I looked at her, and I said, she go, oh, hello, and she said, I said, hello, and she kind of gawking, waiting for me to say something. I just, off the top of my head, are you married? And she said, married? How old do you think I am? She's fresh out of high school. I told her it doesn't matter. You want to go out? And so after a couple of weeks, she didn't know what to think of me. Of course, I had longer hair and earrings and stuff, but we had met enough people in the building, friends of hers, girls and ladies, older ladies, that kind of told her, you might want to give it a shot. So we dated. Our first date was a drive around Loop 410. We didn't go eat. We didn't do anything. And once we made the full circle, we realized that let's go sit in the park. So we went down to Brackenridge Park, sat on a picnic table and talked for hours.
Listen, wow.
And the next day she came back over. I had my doubts. But from that time on, it was pretty inseparable. We did separate when Nathan was a baby over my addictions and just couldn't get along, and I really wasn't ready to stop, at the time until we separated. That was the beginning of the end to my drinking and that. I knew then, I need to get some help. I went home and moved back to Ohio, and she moved in with her sister for a while. And I guess after just a few weeks of not having her around and my brother and I were going to breakfast one morning, and I was emotional and, upset. He says, what's the matter? Are you having a rough morning? I said, a little bit. He said, well, I got something that'll fix you right up. Puts in a Hank Williams Sr. song, my son calls another man daddy.
Wow.
And I went to pieces.
Whoa.
And he says, good. He says, you need to get yourself back to Texas. There's nothing here for you. You'll either be locked up or dead, the way you're living, and you go back to your past. He says, you need to go down and make things right, make amends with your wife and everything. So that's when I started calling her and begging her to come up there, and much to my surprise, she did. I came down and got her and Nate, and we moved up there for about a year till she experienced the first hard winter. And she told me as soon as it quit snowing, I'm going home.
Wow.
I agreed to go to a rehab at the time, so that gave me the knowledge of alcohol and what it is, what alcoholism is, and the drunkenness, and where I first admitted I do have a problem, That wasn't the end of it, but that was the beginning of the end, I think, was getting educated on it. And I just looked at it like that's the norm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we've been reading that verse, going over that verse again out of Isaiah 61 recently, where the scripture says, and Jesus is the one who read it, and in the synagogue in Nazareth, where it says that I have been endued with power, anointed to be a healer of the brokenhearted. I've been sent to heal the brokenhearted.
Yeah.
Now, he obviously had power to heal withered legs and blinded eyes and so forth. But, boy, Scott, when that statement of Jesus and that name that he has, the healer of broken hearts, it's when our hearts are fouled up, our hearts get broken. That's where the real problem comes, because it's from there that our emotions are shifted, and if our emotions get affected, then our wills get affected, our choices get affected, and we end up doing what we're wanting to do or feel like our heart is wanting to do. But I tell you, when Jesus says, I heal broken hearts. I heal what's broken in a heart. And when you and Linda began to turn in that direction, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it, that I knew things weren't perfect in y'all's relationship, and you were struggling with some things, and that would cause her to struggle with things, you know. And but as you set your sights, our only hope is you, Jesus. It's not. We don't have an option B, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Our only hope is, Lord, what you can do in us and do in our hearts.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're just a living example of someone who had been bound by the alcohol, drug situation, that whole lifestyle. But the Lord, in His love for you, knew there was another way, a better way, a whole new way of living that you hadn't even imagined before.
Right.
That He, as He heals, worked that healing of a broken heart in you. Oh man.
I didn't know how to love. I don't guess, you know, I didn't really have that in me until Linda. You know, we're inseparable today. We'd love to be together. The more time that goes by, the more we spend more time together. We really don't do anything outside of one another.
Yeah.
Even hobbies and that. Our grandkids are our life, and you know, we love them, and our kids, and love to be around them, and it gets better.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, it really does, and we just enjoy being together.
You know, it's just, and it's such a story, such a shout from both of your lives that the Lord knows how to thrill you. The Lord knows how to bless beyond anything we could imagine, even in our relationships with our spouses.
Yeah.
You know, and I could say the same thing in my attitude. Surely, if I had to pick one human being in the universe that I would want to be with, that I'd want to spend the rest of my life with, and she may or may not say this, but I'd say it, it's her.
Yeah.
Now, she doesn't hunt, she doesn't fish, she doesn't do some of those things that I have friends, guy friends that I can do some of those things with. But when it comes down to the person that is the greatest joy to my life, it is my wife. And you know, Scott, we are in our 50th year.
Wow.
We've been married. We've been married 50 years. I don't even like to say it.
Congratulations.
I don't even like to say it. 50 years. But it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
And it hadn't all been smooth. It hadn't all been easy. But that's this thing. When the Lord gets to work to heal a broken heart, He can heal what's broken in both spouses' hearts, so that they end up, the closer we get to Him, the closer we're going to get to each other and enjoy it. You know.
We'll have 40 years December.
Is that right? Good.
Yeah, so we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, that is so good. Just great story. Great story. And I'm sure that there are folks listening that either personally, you know, you're going through this thing of trying to get past the alcohol, the drugs that own you. That's what's happening, and therefore that season, it was that alcohol owns you. It defined your life, captured you.
Yeah.
And this story, this wonderful, true story, and I'd raise my hand and say I believe it's true, because I've been around and watched and prayed for you all, and we've spent time together over the years, that the Lord really, really does set captives free. There is more than what you may have thought you could never live past, never get beyond.
Yeah.
And it won't be by us just trying harder or turning over a new leaf. It really will be, Lord, I need you to do what only you can do in my life. And,
Absolutely.
And He doesn't have to do it in one snap of the finger. It's a process.
Right. Yeah.
And it can be a determination every day that I'm looking to where my hope is. I'm looking to where my strength is, and it's you, Lord. That's
I
so
believe
good,
I had a
Scott.
wide open door because to the enemy, because of unforgiveness. You know, I had a lot of bitterness and unforgiveness, and I know it wasn't until I released that, and even to the Lord, I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like,
Yeah.
you know, I know He forgiven me, and you know, you look back and you've said it before, and I've heard it, and it's set deep in there, and you know, those forgiven much can forgive much.
That's right.
You know, so
That's right.
I don't hold any resentments against family members. My father, I know, he was dying of cancer. All that's changed to compassion, even in
There
my
you go.
brothers and stuff.
There you
That
go. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
were so.
We
It was
know that forgiveness is real inside us, that we have forgiven by the Lord's help. We release the one that we need to forgive. When that anger turns to compassion for
yeah,
them.
yeah,
It doesn't mean that we all of a sudden think it wasn't bad what they did, or maybe they didn't really mean it. No, it may be far worse than anything we knew.
sure.
But something that the Lord does in our hearts, that we release it unto Him, and then He begins to work a sense of compassion. I hear that. I hear men say that often. I didn't really understand that to forgive means that the result would be that the very person that I was so angry with, I now feel compassion. I feel sorry for them.
Sure.
I feel sorry for them.
Yeah. I can get emotional when I think about that now, the past, and for them,
Yeah.
my heart aches for them,
Right.
people I've hurt and everything else out of just being ugly, being mean and angry and stuff, so it's all
Gone.
good.
It's gone.
Yes.
That's
The anger's gone,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I don't have those issues anymore.
Yeah. You know somebody when they're drinking, and you know somebody when the same person is not, and whatever that has been that has worked to try to be a self-medicating. And but it's because the anger that's there, it's because the whatever is there, that's what I'm trying to medicate. But when the thing you're trying to medicate is gone,
Yeah.
when that anger is gone, when that sense of revenge is gone, you don't need to medicate it anymore.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what the real Jesus is able to do.
Absolutely.
He's able to move into a heart and remove the anger as we release and forgive as best we can unto Him and say, Lord, help me. Scott, that's been so good. I never get tired of hearing your story, yours and Linda's story. And I pray that this has been some encouragement to some of you. It's a turning to Jesus. It's not turning over a new leaf or trying harder. Something needs to happen by His grace, by His power, to heal the broken place in your heart. The broken may manifest itself in anger, in revenge, in temper, and whatever, but the Lord knows what He's dealing with, and He didn't list any qualifications of that statement. I have been empowered to heal broken hearts.
Absolutely.
When we begin to invite Him to do that, ask Him to do that, and many times we've never done it. We might have been in church, we might sing the songs and give money to some building fund or something, but we've never really said, Lord, I need you to heal this broken place in my heart. My heart, this part of me is broken.
Right.
And I keep hurting other people from that place. And it has nothing to do with them. It's all back here.
Right.
Heal my broken heart. Amen.
It takes the Lord to
Yeah.
get the focus off of, other people and the blaming of other people, and you look at yourself. He had me look at myself and the deep wounds and what's the real issues, and the real issue was Scott Bale, and he fixed that.
He continues to do it, doesn't He, day by day?
Continues to, yes.
Hey, Lord, we thank You for what You're doing in our hearts, what You're doing in Scott and Linda's heart. Use this, Lord, use these words, use this testimony to go wherever it needs to go, to speak hope into the hearts of ones who are listening, who have thought there might be no hope for them. Yes, there is, when the hearts turn to Jesus. And You, as the healer of our broken hearts, bring the more into us that is Yours to give. May it be in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Folks, thanks for joining us today, and we're just blessed to know that you're a part of this family that's kind of growing. And as we hear these stories and get a chance to rejoice in what the Lord really is doing in lives, it's awesome. It means a lot. We'll see you next time. God bless you.